In 1976, the National Cancer Institute made a discovery in the Amazon rainforest that would change everything. They found a tree whose compounds killed cancer cells 10,000 times more effectively than chemotherapy specifically, targeting cancer while leaving healthy cells completely. Untouched. A major pharmaceutical company immediately spent millions trying to create a synthetic version. They worked for 7 years. They failed. Why? Because you can't patent nature. So they buried the research, locked it away, and hoped the world would forget. But the indigenous people of the Amazon never forgot. They've been using this tree for centuries, and today we're unlocking the secret they tried to hide. Welcome to watering nature. It's deep in the Amazon rainforest. Long before modern medicine, the indigenous tribes of South America discovered something extraordinary. A tree that could heal the sick. A tree whose leaves, bark, and fruit treated everything from infections to parasites to tumors that Western medicine had no name for yet. They called it by many names: guanabana in Spanish-speaking regions, graviola in Portuguese, coracada in some dialects. But in English, we call it Soursop. The tree produces a large, green, spiky fruit that tastes like a combination of strawberry, pineapple, and citrus-sweet, creamy, absolutely delicious. But it wasn't just food. The indigenous healers used every part of this tree. The leaves for tea to treat inflammation and infections, the bark for parasites and digestive. She used the seeds ground into powder for natural pesticide, fruit for nutrition and fever reduction, the roots for deep cleansing. But here's what made it truly sacred. The shamans and healers used soursop specifically for what they called bad growths, tumors, abnormal masses, cancerous lumps. They would brew strong tea from the leaves and bark. Have patients drink it daily for weeks or months. And according to oral traditions passed down through generations, these growths would shrink, sometimes disappear entirely as Spanish and Portuguese colonizers explored the Americas. They encountered soursop throughout the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. The locals in every region had similar stories. This tree heals what others cannot. By the 1800s, soursop had spread to tropical regions worldwide: Southeast Asia, Africa, the Pacific Islands. And everywhere it went, traditional healers discovered the same thing. This tree had extraordinary healing properties. In traditional medicine systems across multiple continents, soursop was documented as a treatment for fevers and infections, parasites, and worms, inflammation and pain, digestive problems, high blood pressure, and most significantly cancerous tumors. But Western medicine dismissed it as folklore, primitive superstition, unscientific, until 1976.1976. The United States National Cancer Institute launches a plant screening program. Their goal: search the world's rainforests for plants with potential cancer-fighting properties. They collect samples from thousands of plants. They test them in laboratories. Most show little to no effect, and then they test soursop. The results were so extraordinary, so unprecedented, that the researchers thought there must be an error. They tested again and again. What they found would eventually be published, though quietly. In scientific literature, soursop contains a group of compounds called ananaceous acetogenins, specifically a compound called annanacin. These acetogenins did something that shocked the scientific community. They selectively killed cancer cells, leaving healthy cells completely untouched. Let me explain why this is revolutionary. Chemotherapy. Drugs kill rapidly dividing cells, which includes cancer cells, but also includes healthy cells in your hair follicles, digestive tract, and immune system. That's why chemo causes hair loss, nausea, and destroys your immune system. But soursop's acetogenins work differently. They target the energy production centers of cancer cells, specifically their mitochondria. Cancer cells have abnormal mitochondria that produce energy differently than healthy cells. Soursop compounds recognize this difference and shut down energy production only in cancer cells. The cancer cells starve, they die, and healthy cells continue functioning normally. The studies showed soursop was effective against multiple Types of cancer: breast cancer, lung cancer, prostate, cancercolon, cancer pancreatic, cancer liver, cancer butt. Here's the number that stopped, everyone. In laboratory studies, Soursop's acetogenins were shown to be up to 10,000 times more effective than the chemotherapy drug adriamycin at killing certain cancer cell lines. 10,000 times, naturally. A major pharmaceutical company took notice. They saw the potential, a natural cancer treatment that outperformed chemotherapy. This could be worth billions, maybe trillions of dollars. But there was one problem. You cannot patent a plant. Patent? Law requires that an invention be novel, something new that doesn't exist in nature. Soursop has existed for millions of years. It's not novel. It's not patentable. So the pharmaceutical company tried to do what they always do: isolate the active compound, modify it slightly, create a synthetic version, and patent that. They spent 7 years trying. Millions of dollars invested. The best chemists in the world working on it, and they failed. Soursop's acetogens are incredibly complex molecules. The synthetic versions either didn't work, were too toxic, or couldn't be produced affordably. Nature had created something so intricate, so perfectly balanced, that human science couldn't replicate it. So what did the pharmaceutical company do? They buried the research. If they couldn't profit from it, why let anyone else benefit? Why let a cheap, natural treatment compete with their expensive, patented cancer drugs? The research was quietly shelved, published in obscure journals that most doctors never read, never promoted, never publicized, but the indigenous people of the Amazon. They kept using it. They never stopped, because they knew it worked, and slowly, word began to spread. So, let's break down exactly how Soursop works and what modern science has discovered. Soursop contains over 100 different acetogenins. Each one has slightly different properties, but they all work toward the same goal: disrupting cancer cell energy production. Cancer cells produce energy differently than normal cells. They rely heavily on a process called glycolysis when oxygen is available. This is called the Warburg effect. Discovered by Nobel Prize winner Otto Warburg in the 1920s, Soursop's acetogenins specifically target this abnormal energy production. They inhibit complex I of the mitochondrial electron transport chain, essentially cutting off the cancer cell's power supply without energy. Cancer cells cannot divide and multiply, repair DNA damage, resist apoptosis, programmed cell death, develop drug resistance. They simply die. But here's what makes this even more remarkable. Studies show Soursop is effective against multi-drug resistant cancer cells. Many cancers become resistant to chemotherapy over time. The cancer cells mutate and develop pumps that literally push chemotherapy drugs out of the cell before they can work. Soursop's mechanism is so different from chemotherapy that these resistance mechanisms don't work against it. Drug-resistant cancer cells are still vulnerable to Soursop. How it supports the immune beyond directly killing cancer cells. Soursop also supports the immune system. Studies show Soursop increases the activity of natural killer cells, enhances macrophage function, reduces inflammation, provides powerful antioxidants that protect DNA from damage. Since that initial 1976 discovery, over 40 years of research has been conducted. Purdue University conducted extensive studies on Soursop's anti-cancer properties. The Journal of Natural Products published multiple studies on acetogenins. University of South Korea found Soursop effective against multi-drug resistant cancer cells. The National Cancer Institute's own database lists Soursop's anti-cancer properties, but here's the frustrating part. Despite all this research, there have been no large-scale human clinical trials. Why? Because clinical trials cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And pharmaceutical companies won't fund trials for something they can't patent and profit from. Universities and government agencies could fund these trials. But cancer research funding is heavily influenced by pharmaceutical industry interests. So we have laboratory studies, animal studies, cell culture studies, case reports, testimonials, but no FDA-approved indication for cancer treatment. Does that mean it doesn't work? Or does it mean that our medical system is designed to profit from expensive, patented drugs rather than cure people with affordable natural medicines? I'll let you decide. Narrator, now let's talk about practical use. If you're interested in Soursop, here's what you need to know. Important disclaimer: Soursop is not an FDA-approved cancer treatment. This information is educational only. If you have cancer, work with qualified healthcare professionals. Never stop or delay conventional treatment without medical guidance. That said, many people around the world use Soursop as a complementary therapy, meaning alongside conventional treatment, not instead of it. Forms of Soursop. 1. Soursop leaves. This is a traditional method used for centuries. Use dried Soursop leaves. Steep 3 to 5 leaves in hot water for 10 to 15 minutes. Drink. It's 1 to 3 cups daily. The tea has a mild, slightly bitter or earthy taste too. Soursop fruit. The fresh fruit is nutritious and delicious, contains vitamins, minerals, and beneficial compounds. Can be eaten fresh or made into juice or smoothie shower. The fruit has lower concentrations of acetogenins than the leaves. 3. Soursop extract concentrated form. More convenient. Look for standardized extracts. Follow dosage instructions carefully. Quality varies widely between brands. Dosag. Traditional healers typically recommend 2 to 3 cups of tea daily from 3 to 5 leaves per Kupor 500 150 OMG. Extract daily in capsule form. Some protocols use higher doses for active cancer treatment, but this should only be done under professional guidance. Safety and side effects. Soursop is generally well tolerated, but there are important considerations. Potential side effects at very high doses. Some people experience nausea or vomiting. Can lower blood pressure, which is beneficial for some. But monitor if you're already on blood pressure medication. May lower blood sugar. Important warnings. 1. Neurological concerns. Some studies suggest that very high, long-term consumption of Soursop, particularly in populations eating large amounts of the fruit regularly, may be linked to a typical Parkinson's-like condition similar to Parkinson's disease. This appears to be dose-dependent and related. 2. One specific compound, annonacin, accumulating in the brain over many years of excessive consumption. The key word is excessive. Traditional therapeutic use for limited periods appears to be safe. 2. Pregnancy. Pregnant women should avoid Soursop in medicinal amounts. It has traditionally been used to stimulate uterine contractions. 3. Low blood pressure. If you already have low blood pressure, use caution as Soursop can lower it further. 4. Drug interactions may enhance effects of blood pressure medications. May enhance effects of diabetes medications. May interact with antidepressants. MAO inhibitors may interact with medications metabolized by the liver. If you're buying Soursop products, look for organic certification. Buy from reputable companies with third-party testing. Check for heavy metal testing. Avoid products with additives or fillers. Store properly. Traditional protocols often involve 3 to 6 month cycles of daily use, 1 to 2 week breaks between cycles, and ongoing monitoring of symptoms and effects. This it's not something you use casually forever. It's a therapeutic intervention with specific goals. Many integrative cancer doctors suggest using Soursop alongside conventional treatment. It may enhance chemotherapy effectiveness for certain types. It may reduce side effects of conventional treatment. May help prevent recurrence after conventional treatment, but always coordinate with your medical team. So here's what we've learned today. For centuries, the indigenous peoples of the Amazon knew that this tree, this simple, beautiful tree, had the power to heal what others could not. In 1976, modern science discovered they were right. Soursop contains compounds 10,000 times more effective than chemotherapy at killing certain cancer cells. It targets cancer while sparing healthy tissue. It works against drug-resistant cancers. But because it can't be patented, because it can't generate billions in profit, the research was buried, locked away, kept from the public, and yet the tree still grows. The knowledge still spreads. The healing still happens. This doesn't mean Soursop is a miracle cure. Cancer is complex. Every case is different. We need more research. We need clinical trials. We need honest, unbiased science. But we also need to ask, why isn't that research happening? Why? After 50 years of promising laboratory studies, have there been no major human trials? Is it because it doesn't work? Or because there's no profit in it? The indigenous healers never stopped using it. People around the world continue to benefit from it. And now you know the story they tried to hide. If this opened your eyes, subscribe to Watering Nature. We're uncovering the forgotten medicines, the buried research, the natural solutions that have always been here. Drop a comment. Have you heard of Soursop before? Do you know anyone who's used it? Share your story, and if this information could help someone you know, share this video. Knowledge this powerful shouldn't stay hidden. The rainforest holds secrets modern medicine has forgotten. But nature never forgets, and neither should we. This is Watering Nature. Until next time.